Good morning, everyone. As you all know, we are doing the poem Ode to the West Wind by P.B. Shelley, who is one of the prominent romantic poet of the Romantic age, who is known as a revolutionary, and you can see this quality very much in this poem, which is prescribed for you, Ode to the West Wind. He wants to be wild and free spirit, just like the West Wind, and it is some of the very poignant lines are written by him in this poem, and that is why he is so popular a poet of the Romantic age. We have done 2 stanzas in the previous video. We will continue with the 3rd stanza and go on to complete the poem. Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean, where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, beside a pumice isle in Bai's Bay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with the azure moss and flowers, so sweet the sense faints picturing them. Thou, for whose path the Atlantic's level power cleave themselves into chasms, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods, which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean, know thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear and tremble and despoil themselves, O hear. In these lines, the poem here, the poem is in the form of a prayer to the west wind. In the first 3 stanzas, the poet describes the power of the west wind on the earth, in the sky, and on the sea. In these lines, the poet describes the west wind on the sea, agitating the waves. The poet describes the change wrought by the wind on the sea surface, Mediterranean and Atlantic. The poet personifies the Mediterranean Sea. He regards it as a living being who had gone to sleep and who had been dreaming throughout summer till in the autumn the west wind awakened from sleep and interpreted his dream. The poet says that the west wind disturbed the Mediterranean in his sleep. During summer, the Mediterranean, soothed by the pleasant sound of bright rivers which fell into the waters, had gone to sleep near an island made of lava in Bai's Bay, not far from Naples. In his sleep, the Mediterranean had dreams. From this dreamful sleep, the Mediterranean was aroused by the violence of the west wind. In his sleep, the Mediterranean dreamt of old palaces and towers of the cities buried under the sea during earthquake and volcanic eruptions, slightly trembling in the bright and clear light of the ocean below the surface. On these palaces and towers, moss of such overpowering sweetness grow that the very thought of them comes laden with such a heavy perfume that the sense of smell faints. Shelley, in the Ode to the Skylark, expresses similar thought when he says, makes faint with the too much sweet, these heavy-winged thieves. The poet describes the effect of the west wind on the Atlantic Ocean. He says that when the west wind blows on Atlantic, its water is agitated. The level surface of the Atlantic becomes furrowed with many channels to enable the wind to rush along them. Before the west wind blew, the surface of the Atlantic Ocean was level, but now it would seem as if the Atlantic waters break apart to form paths for the west wind to tread, as if the west wind were an awesome king. The poet then describes the effect of the west wind on the vegetation at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The plants at the bottom of the ocean are damp, but they have no sap in them. They are dry. When the west wind begins to blow, those plants at once become aware of its arrival. They begin to tremble with fear and become grey leaved out of fear and shed their leaves. Just as in autumn, the trees on earth shed their leaves, similarly, the plants at the bottom of the ocean also shed their leaves. Hence, the plants stand in great terror of the wind. Here also, Shelley has expressed the well known scientific fact that the vegetation below the sea surface follow the seasonal changes on the earth. In autumn season, as the leaves of trees are on land begin to fall, the same process is repeated among sea plants as well. We will continue with the next few lines or the next stanza of the poem. If I were a dead leaf, thou mightest bear. If I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power and share the impulse of thy strength, only less free than thou, O uncontrollable. If even I were as in my boyhood, and could be the comrade of thy wanderings over heaven, as then, when to outstrip thy skyey speed scarce seemed a vision, I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. O lift me as a wave, as a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. A heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed one too like thee, tameless and swift and proud. Make me proud. Let's go on to explain the lines and then continue the remaining stanza. In these lines, again, the prayer to the west wind continues. The poet describes the power of the west wind on earth, in the sky, and on the sea. These lines are from the next stanza. Here, the poet stresses his inadequacy. In this stanza, the poet first stresses his inadequacy and then makes the prayer to lift him above the cares of life. In these lines, the poet prays for strength. The ills of life have sapped his strength and hence the need for prayer. The poet says that he is in a very helpless condition. He would never have prayed to her for giving him her power if he had been what he was in boyhood. If he had been as light as a dead leaf, the west wind could have carried him with her. If he were a swift cloud, he would have flown with the west wind. If he had been a sea wave, he would have got her power, and thus he would have shared the effect of her strength, as the waves of the sea do. He would have been only a little less powerful than the wind was. In his boyhood days, he was himself powerful. As a boy, he thought he could run as fast as the west wind blows. In his boyhood days, he even thought he could run at a speed faster than the speed of the west wind. He regarded that to surpass the speed of the west wind in the sky was not an impossible task. The poet implores the west wind to carry him on her current as a wave, a leaf, a cloud, because he wants to share the driving force of her strength. In the days of his childhood, the poet was powerful enough to be the companion of his wanderings and could outrun her in her swiftest speed. If he were what he was in his boyhood, he would not have prayed to the west wind for strength. The poet wants to partake the fierce strength and energy of the west wind. If he had been a leaf, a cloud, or a wave, and if he could feel the impulse of her strength, he would never have tried to pray to her for power. There would have been no occasion for this petition for giving him strength if he had retained the dreams and enthusiasm of his boyhood. But now he is weak and is in sore need of strength. Hence he prays to the west wind for strength. Let's continue the poem. Make me thy lyre, even as the forest is. What if my leaves are falling like its own? The tumult of thy mighty harmonies will take from both a deep autumnal tone, sweet though in sadness. Be thou spirit fierce, my spirit. Be thou me, impetus one. Drive my dead thoughts over the universe like withered leaves to quicken a new birth, and by the incantation of this verse, scatter as from an unextinguished hearth, ashes and sparks, my words among mankind. Be through my lips to unawakened earth the trumpet of a prophecy. O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? In these lines, Shelley passionately believes in the rebirth of humanity. He holds that man is essentially good and all the wickedness in the world is caused by conventions and established authority. As I told you in the beginning, Shelley is known for his revolutionary attitude. Once humanity realizes this truth, it will shake itself free from the dead tyranny of conventions which bind its spirit. When this happens, humanity will emerge in all its nobility and glory. Shelley's poems are to be a prophecy of a new and better life for the world. After describing the changes brought about by the west wind on the earth, sea, and sky, the poet turns to address a personal prayer to the west wind. In his youth, when he was carefree, he was confident of surpassing the celerity of the west wind. But the troubles and oppressions of the later years have crushed him to the earth. He is scarcely able to lift his head. His life has become denuded of its charms. He is struck upon the thorns which have fallen to his share, that is, the joys of his life have faded for him. Only troubles remain to drain off his vitality and zest of life. Therefore, Shelley prays to west wind to lift him from the earth and impart him her energy so that he may be able to break through the restraints and become light and fleet like a leaf, cloud, and wave under the wind's impulse. Shelley's appeal is all the more significant if it is remembered that by his nature he was as wild, free, and tameless as the uncontrollable wind itself. The poet establishes a connection between himself and the west wind. He gives us his memories of his boyhood. As a boy, he was swift, proud, and uncontrollable as the west wind, but now he has been crushed by the misfortunes of life. The poet makes another prayer, this time for poetic inspiration for the good of mankind. The poet asks the west wind to treat him as a musical instrument on whose strings, lyre that is, she can play as she plays on the forest. In other words, the poet wants that the wind should blow on him as it blows on the trees in a forest. It does not matter if he is in the autumn of his life. He means that all his hopes and joys have gone and his life has become dull and barren. He has lost the joys and energy and enthusiasm of youth. Addressing the west wind, the poet says that if she blows on the forest and on him, the music that she produces will be sober and subdued and not boisterous, because both of them are passing through autumn. The poet wishes to become identified with the fierce and swift west wind. He appeals to her to spread his thoughts in the world so that they may herald the birth of a new era. His thoughts do not have their former fire, but they are still capable of inspiring men. Just as ashes and sparks fly in the fly in all directions from a hearth where the fire has not yet completely extinguished. Similarly, the poet wants his words to be scattered far and wide through this song. He wishes the west wind to act as his mouthpiece for the utterance of his prophecy regarding the advent of a golden age on earth. Just as autumn is followed by winter and winter is followed in a natural course by spring, similarly, this era of evils and miseries will soon be followed by an era of perfect happiness, love, and beauty. Society also undergoes such cyclical changes. No state is permanent, thus, the days of regeneration are not far off. Shelley ends the poem with the prophetic lines, O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? And whenever we think of Shelley, these lines come to our mind. And I hope you all enjoyed the poem. Thank you.